This is Sky World News Review and Business Report with Lisa Mates.
Hello and welcome back. This is Sky World News. A reminder of our top stories this morning. Australia's election deadlock looks set to end today after weeks of uncertainty following the vote in August. French Foreign Minister has attacked Iran, saying plans to stone a woman to death for adultery are barbaric and a return to the Middle Ages. Pakistan's Taliban have claimed responsibility for a suicide bomb attack on a police station in the Punjab province, which killed 17 people, including 4 children. Well, time for an update on all the African business news. Let's cross to Summit TV.
Hello and good morning. I'm Jennifer Sue from Summit TV, and here's a look at how the bourses were last trading across the African continent. In southern Africa, Botswana's domestic index was trading 0.31% in the red. South Africa's all-share lost about 0.1%, and the LUSE in Zambia was down by more than 0.33%. Over to West Africa, where Ivory Coast Composite was closed for a public holiday, and Nigeria's all-share shed about 0.2%. And over to East Africa, where Kenya's NSE was 0.22% weaker, the Mauritius Semdex was up 0.23%, and Uganda's composite was marginally weaker on the day. Let's take a look at those currency markets this morning. Well, in southern Africa, $1 buys you 6.64 Botswana Pula, 7.21 South African Rands, and 4,855 Zambian Kwacha. Over to West Africa, where you pay 1.43 Ghanaian Cedi a dollar, more than 508 Ivory Coast francs, and over 150 Nigerian naira for the greenback. And in East Africa, you'll get 79.2 Kenyan shillings for a dollar, 30.25 Mauritian rupees, and 2,247 Ugandan shillings for $1. We start off in South Africa, where a long-running strike by more than 1 million public servants has been suspended. The strikes run for nearly a month and has all but crippled education, healthcare, and the judiciary. The unions want a pay rise of 8.6%. That's more than double the inflation rate, and a housing allowance of $135 a month. The government's offered 7.5% and a housing allowance of around $108 a month. The unions have now suspended the strike for 3 weeks while workers consider the offer. Economists estimate the strike has cost the South African economy around $140 million a day. The final cost could be far higher. The government has said that it will need to slash spending elsewhere to foot the higher wage bill, and some accountants fear taxes may rise. Staying in South Africa, and some of the country's biggest tire makers stand accused of rigging the market. Companies in the firing line include the local arms of Goodyear and Continental, and the local owner of Dunlop. South Africa's Competition Commission says they colluded on price rises, discounts, and even the excuses they would give customers. The cartel ran from 1999 to 2007. Among the victims, the motor industry, dealers, and the South African government. One alleged conspirator, Bridgestone, has already confessed all in return for immunity from prosecution. The commission now wants the others fined 10% of their annual sales. Michelin and Yokohama were not involved in the alleged cartel. And a quick roundup now of other news from across the continent. Thousands of workers at South African platinum mine Northam have gone on strike over pay. Their unions demanding a 15% pay rise. The company has offered 8%. Mining group Rio Tinto is to invest further in diamond mining in Zimbabwe. Zambia has raised its 2010 growth forecast to 6.6%. Previously, it was predicting 5.8%. And consumer prices in the Seychelles fell 1.5% year-on-year in August. That's from a 3.5% drop in July. And that's a wrap of your African business news. Reporting for Summit TV in Johannesburg, I'm Jennifer Sue. Now back to you at the Sky News Centre in London.
Thanks very much for that. Well, let's have a quick look at how the currencies and the markets are faring this morning. Wall Street was closed today for the Labor Day weekend, but hopes for the American economy were having an effect in Europe. On Monday, markets there pushed ahead as fears eased of a US slowdown and a double-dip recession. But in Asia, markets fell in early trading, but losses were limited. Thanks very much for that. We are watching Sky World News on our website, skynews.com. Border claims Israel's new evidence against Hezbollah. And still ahead, why Iraq is beefing up security at its southern oil facilities. Plus, coming up in Sport with Graham, find out the latest from the US Open. A Filipino police official holds up a misspelt hostage negotiation manual on the cover of the South China Morning Post as the investigation continues into the handling of the deadly Manila-Hong Kong bus siege. While politics is predictably the front page of the Sydney Morning Herald, it also features a photo of Martin Ben, who's been named Australia's top chef. Kenya's Daily Nation leads with a strange twist in the parliamentary inquiry into the Charterhouse Bank, which was closed by Kenya's central bank 4 years ago. As unions and the government agree to return to the negotiating table, South Africa's Sowetan features a husband and wife picking through the remains of their home, which was firebombed by striking workers. And finally, South Africa's The Witness goes out on a limb, featuring a model abseiling down a building in London's Oxford Circus. Southwest and central parts of southern Africa will be fine and dry, but in the east, southern Mozambique, northeastern parts of South Africa and Swaziland will be overcast with a little rain at times. Eastern Madagascar will be quite cloudy too, but should stay mainly dry. The Seychelles will have showers. In the north of the region, meanwhile, the equatorial showers will be fairly well distributed and will extend south across much of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Somalia will see no more than the odd coastal shower.
Sports headlines. Tiger Woods will find out later on Tuesday if his strong showing at the Deutsche Bank Championship was enough to convince US Ryder Cup captain Corey Pavin to pick him. Woods finished on 10 under par, good enough for a share of 11th place, with these last 3 rounds all below 70. Top seed at the US Open, Caroline Wozniacki beat 3-time major champion Maria Sharapova 6-3, 6-4 to reach the quarterfinals. Men's number 3 seed Novak Djokovic is also into the last 8 after beating Mardy Fish in straight sets 6-3, 6-4, 6-1. Despite all the troubles cricket has found itself in recently, Abu Dhabi's The National shows fans still enjoy the game wherever they can set up a pitch. Tennis and football in Dubai's Golf News. Dominika Cibulkova is pictured on her way to beating Svetlana Kuznetsova at the US Open. Alongside that, England manager Fabio Capello insists Wayne Rooney will play against Switzerland. Heroes to zeros in just 12 months is the harsh headline in Durban's Mercury. A year after winning the Tri-Nations competition, the Springboks have finished bottom of the table with just 1 win. Maritzburg United forward Rudolf Bester says he can get better as he aims to renew his goal-scoring heroics against Kaizer Chiefs, according to South Africa's The Witness. More South African football in the Sowetan. Orlando Pirates are hoping to beat Free State Stars this weekend, which will set them up for the Soweto derby against Kaizer Chiefs. While Kenya's surprise 1-0 loss in an Africa Cup of Nations qualifier is the main story in Kenya's Daily Nation.
Well, this is Sky World News. Let's take another look at some of our top stories this morning.